Happy Monday, everybody. This is your host, Christopher Rennie. This is another edition of the Chris Rennie Show. On today's episode, we are going to get into the flailing Tom Brady's, and we're going to talk about why the Saints and Drew Brees are just getting better and getting started. We're also going to talk about my bold prediction down the home stretch, how the NBA voted to continue on with their offseason and move forward with the season in December, starting on the 22nd. A certain player was upset. We'll get into that and why. We're going to talk about my mid-season NFL awards. And lastly, I'm going to get into some college football today and talk about the college football playoff implications from this weekend. All that and more on this episode of the Chris Rennie Show. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, rate the show, and don't forget to give me a follow on Twitter at Chris Rennie CFP. Thanks and enjoy the show. I can't do this anymore. What's this guy saying? Who gave these national radio hosts these jobs? Jeez. Can't even understand that guy. What's he even talking about? I can't take it anymore. Those national media personalities making you feel like that. Make a change. Listen to this idiot about the sports that matter from the opinion that matters. Haha, you said it, not me. Now for today's takes from the most opinionated host in sports talk. So last night, I was enjoying myself. Football was on. It was chilly. I was under a blanket. I had some soda in my hand. It was a Sunday night. It was a Sunday night in the greatest of fashions. There's been a lot of Sunday nights in my life. Getting ready for the week. Getting ready to get to bed, where I'm watching a Tom Brady-led team go down early, right? All for the inevitable Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, to come back, win the game. Tom Brady, the all-time best quarterback, he has 6 Super Bowls, right? I remember them going into the game last night. The advanced stat from Amazon was the amount of downfield passes he's made this year, over 40, twice as many as Drew Brees. He's completed a good percentage of them, has a very high pass rating of passes down the field. They added Antonio Brown, they're unstoppable. So what? They got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Scotty Miller, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski. They used to have O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate. Keep going. Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette. Their offensive line was apparently really good, and their defense was supposedly this all-time inevitable force that was eventually going to settle in and stop you. Well, you look at all the rankings, you look at all the stats. Last night's game wasn't supposed to happen. Drew Brees hadn't been that good all year, that lethal. He didn't throw that many yards. It wasn't one of his greatest yards per game performances, but he was precise, he was accurate, and he was delivering the football in windows that I hadn't seen him deliver them into this year. Everyone was just kind of, the running joke throughout the year for the Saints was it's Alvin Kamara and occasionally a receiver on like a play action pass. But it was mostly Alvin Kamara making up for the greatest percentage and chunk of their offense, passing or receiving and rushing. But last night, I'm looking at the box score right now, which doesn't tell the whole story. Like I said, it's one of those games where you really just kind of just had to be impressed with Drew Brees. 26 for 32, 222 yards, 4 touchdowns. on the road, which isn't really what you know the Saints for. Usually the Saints lay an egg in games like this on the road. But I think, the quietness of the Saints, just the way they played last night, is something scary. 31-0 before halftime. I mean, in the NFL, that's very rare. In college, that happens quite a bit. But 31-0 against one of the best quarterbacks to ever lace them up. I'm saying one of the best now. He's got 6 Super Bowls. I'm saying one of the best. Because I think when you look at Tom and you look at where the New England Patriots are, Tom is in a much better position. And this is going to be the conversation I'm going to have right now. The thing about New England with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and Robert Kraft was from top to bottom, there was a definitive set of cultural guidelines and how you behave and how you acted and what you did and how you showed up to work and so on and so forth. Tom was tired of it. Gronk was tired of it. It forced him into an earlier retirement than many thought. The grind that is New England is a reason in those big games you always felt like New England had a chance to come back. In those big games, it's why you felt like the Patriots were never out of it, even when Tom Brady was hurt. It's 100% what you are, is your culture. And in Tampa, they can't fake it. All right, their culture is gambling. They are here to win now, and you can't force it. It is reminding me of the Lantern Corps, the Yellow Lanterns, and their whole thing about Sinestro Corps. You know the guys, the ones. The Green Lanterns are willpower. That was the New England Patriots. They were willpower. All right. Anything you can do through the hard work and belief in your teammate, organization, and coaching staff. All right. That was them. All right. The Sinestro Corps is different. They do everything derived from the emotion of fear. It's evil. It's not good. They feel like fear is their way to power, and that is how I felt the Tampa Bay Buccaneers approached it. Everyone's like, oh my God, they have Antonio Brown. I don't think that changes anything. You know what? They've had trouble with the weapons they have already. Okay, so when you look at Tampa Bay, I'm not saying they're not going to make the playoffs. I'm not saying they're a bad football team. I'm just saying they aren't the same as the New England Patriots when it was Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. All right, and that is a very obvious observation. I know that. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers should be better. They should. Bruce Arians isn't a bad football coach, but you know what? There was a little bit of headway, a little bit of indecisiveness, granted, when they disagreed on signing Antonio Brown. All right, now Antonio Brown can come back and have a huge week next week. Doesn't change my overall sentiment on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are going to be 7-3 probably. They're probably going to make the playoffs. They still are in the running for the NFC South. But the reason the Sinestro Corp always loses in the Green Lantern comics is because the Green Lanterns have something much more powerful than fear. And it's will and belief in themselves. And if they can will anything, they are going to beat fear. And that is what happens when you punch Antonio Brown in the face of the line with a jam. That is what happens when you're not scared of the weapons, because you know you can limit them. You can play defenses that force Tom Brady into uncomfortable throws off platform. And that's what they did last night. That's what the Saints did extremely well. And not everyone has the Saints defense personnel to be able to do that with a guy like Marshawn Lattimore, with a defensive secondary leader like Malcolm Jenkins, with a defensive end like Cameron Jordan. Not everybody has those types of players, but the teams that do are going to be able to bully the Buccaneers. They're going to be able to bully the culture that was formed there, and they're going to be able to bully their way past them in the playoffs. And that's my belief. And I can eat crow at the end of the year if Tampa Bay ends up going on and winning a Super Bowl. But I don't think they will. I don't think Tom Brady has it. I think there's too many teams in the way. I don't think this team can beat Patrick Mahomes. I don't think this team can beat the Saints again in the playoffs. I don't think they can beat many of the teams that are going to be in front of them. The Packers, again. I don't think they'll beat them again. I don't think they'll beat Aaron Rodgers twice. I don't think they'll beat, what's their names? Good quarterback. Oh, yeah, any team. Russell Wilson, the Seahawks. How am I forgetting them? I don't think this Buccaneers team beats Josh Allen and the Bills repeatedly, okay? I don't think they beat them. All right? So, I think there's a lot of teams better than the Buccaneers right now. Is that wrong of me? I don't think so. The last glimpse I got of them, 38-3 loss to the Saints, who we were saying weren't very good this year. So that's, 3 picks from Tom? All right. 9 rushing yards in the game? You're going to tell me you're going to win a Super Bowl running for 9 yards? What's that, 5 total carries? Yeah, that's not happening. Look at all these people. You think you're going to get the ball to all these people, keep all these people happy? You're not. It's not possible. And it's going to be trouble for them. On the other side, I want to talk about the Saints for a little bit. The Saints impressed me. And now Michael Thomas came back, made himself known. 5 catches, 51 yards. Deontay Harris had an unbelievable play last night where he caught a ball, broke a tackle, and just bounced. And then Emmanuel Sanders had the nice little touchdown. Who else had the touchdown? Traquan Smith had a nice little touchdown. And I thought, there's games last year where Drew Brees had 3 undrafted guys and he was able to maneuver drives down the field and score touchdowns. I think this team is really good. I think getting Michael Thomas back is going to open up the offense even that much more. And I know the league thinks all these casual fans think Michael Thomas is a slant merchant. No, he's just always open in the intermediate, and it always feels like a slant because he always catches it so easily. So I think what Michael Thomas brings to the Saints that the Saints didn't have previously and were 5-2 coming into that last night's game against the Buccaneers. They were 5-2, so they weren't bad. But what they didn't have was that one threat to get the ball every play. And now that's going to make every other receiver's job easier, whether that is Taysom Hill, whether that is Alvin Kamara out of the backfield, whether that is Deontay Harris, Adam Trotman, Emmanuel Sanders, Jared Cook. It doesn't matter. They are better off because they have a weapon like Michael Thomas in the offense, even if he isn't catching the ball. It makes me think about last year's Falcons team when everyone was all upset. Fantasy owners were like, oh, they're triple teaming Julio Jones. Well, yeah, who wouldn't? But then they had Calvin Ridley. So Calvin Ridley was excellent and made a bunch of big plays, and that's sort of what Michael Thomas opens up. He has that. He's not. I don't think he's as good as Julio. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is he has that. You have to keep 2 guys looking at him at all times, or else it's a one-on-one matchup, and he's probably going to score, or you are going to give up something else if you put too many guys on him. So it really adds that level of complexity to the defense, and I really like the momentum the Saints gained last night. So when you look at the Saints' schedule moving forward, I think it is very winnable. You got the downtrodden 49ers, you've got the Falcons, or in-division rival, but you get both those games at home. The tough game for them is going to be going out at the end of November to Mile High in Denver. They're going to have to play that tough Broncos defense in Denver. It's going to be cold. Then they play the Falcons again, the Eagles. So I'm saying, that's 3-4 wins right there, I'd say. And then they got the Chiefs, and then the Vikings and the Panthers. So down the last 8, I think they could win 5 or 6 games with relative ease. And that is something that I can't say for a lot of teams. They've got that 1-game advantage now, or that half-game advantage over the Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers bounce back. But their NFC crossover matchup is the Rams. I think that's a much tougher matchup. And I think this is trending towards the Saints winning the NFC South again and putting that L on their forehead facing the Tom Brady Buccaneers. That is what we're talking about today. So the next thing on the list, there's some other NFL storylines that I saw yesterday. And this one I watched the whole Chargers game for ulterior reasons, not going to get into them. But the Chargers and Justin Herbert, I think Anthony Lynn's very bad at coaching close games, right? Like, I'm not wrong to say they've blown 4 straight leads. They came back, and the ball was in the 2 receivers' hands. Mike Williams had the catch. Great play by the DB. The backup second-string tight end they threw a fade ball to, had a catch, dropped it at the end of the play when he hit the ground. Unfortunate plays, as close as you can get. It's a game of inches. That's football. But the one takeaway I have from that game is Justin Herbert is a star. Like, the talent, the grit, the determination he played with yesterday to come back, lead the team back. Yes, he didn't win the game. I know it felt very Phillip Rivers-esque, but he showed so much moxie, I guess would be the word a 65-year-old would use here, and he delivered in the final moments. Even if he didn't fully complete the pass, he put the ball where it needed to be. I didn't like the play call. I think the goal line fade is very inefficient. I think it's a play that only works a quarter of the time. But you had 2 chances. You went goal line fade, goal line fade. I respect the boldness. I would have probably honestly manipulated the defense end and ran a read option with a third option to pass the ball outside. And then, you win the game that way. But I am not paid to do that. I'm not paid to coach. I'm not even paid to do this. So we're still going to get into that. I think when you watch that last bit, Justin Herbert, and this annoyed me to no end. They were attacking the middle of the field, which ate up a lot of clock. And you could hear Romo talking to Nance, like, just throw 10-yard outs, throw 10-yard outs, throw 10-yard outs. They're giving it to you. You take 5 of them, and then if they start coming up because they don't want to keep giving up yards, that opens up a big play. That's what I was thinking the whole time. I said, these 5-yard little dump-offs to the running back in the middle are just eating away at your clock. That is not on Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert went to the option that was open. He's a young quarterback. He's going to do that. As a coach, the swing pass was nice. The outs that you did end up running and throwing were nice, but they were playing like a quarters, prevent type, keep everything in front of you defense. And the sideline was open, 10 yards apiece, 10 yards apiece. They take like 3 seconds, like Romo said, and they get you up the field, and you have 30, 40 seconds down there. That even gives you time to run the football a couple times if you really want to. So with 1 second left from the 2-yard line, I'm not throwing goal line fades twice. All right, maybe once, but not twice. And not to my backup tight end. I'm going to Keenan Allen. Mike Williams was out, unfortunately, on the last player. I would have went right back to him. But I really liked what I saw from Justin Herbert in that second half. To put into context, I think we've got 2 really young star quarterbacks. Joe Burrow was in his bye this week. And then the third young star, Tua. This is the last storyline before I get into the next conversation topic. I didn't watch much of the Cardinals game because I just thought the Cardinals were going to run away with it at some point. And they never did. All right. And I was left kind of speechless with the way that game ended. I think watching Pat McAfee and his $71,000 parlay was kind of what I needed to get me interested in that. But really, all right, we saw the future of the NFL in 2 quarterbacks yesterday and 3 quarterbacks this year. Back after an emergency break. We're not going to get into the details. It was rough. But the coffee is hitting this morning, and so was Tua Tagovailoa last night. Tua, the Christmas present that came early. All right, so Tua last night. Kyler Murray's been on this sort of unstoppable tear lately, and I don't think it really got slowed down last night. He went 21 for 26, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns. So I commend Kyler Murray. This game wasn't fully on him. Their defense couldn't stop a nosebleed last night. Kyler Murray had 11 carries for 106 rush yards as well. So, I think it's very interesting, the Dolphins. So last week, I talked about the Dolphins and said they had the number one defense. They probably got hurt a little this week playing the Cardinals, but they had the number one defense last week, and not a single player over the age of 30 in their starting lineup. All right, so what does that mean for them? I think they still thought they were a year away this year, but now they're 5-3 in contention for the AFC East. And really, I do think that Tua takes them to another level. And I know Ryan Fitzpatrick was playing good, but the one thing you were waiting for was the dynamite stick that Ryan Fitzpatrick is, all right, to explode. And, sometimes he makes Mount Rushmore, sometimes he blows up a building and is a demolition crew. That's Ryan Fitzpatrick. All right, and usually it's the blows up the building crew. He's building Mount Rushmore, he's building the side of the mountain, and then all of a sudden, Ryan Fitzpatrick gets a little too comfortable, and then ba-boom, there goes all the faces. It's just a mountain again. But Tua brought a steady hand yesterday. And, I didn't watch the whole game, but rewatching the highlights, Tua was 20 for 28, very respectable, just under 75%, 248 yards, 2 touchdowns, very respectable. All right, they have their starting running back yesterday in Myles Gaskins. They had Salvon Ahmed, and they really spread the ball around yesterday. I thought the difference between Tua and Ryan Fitzpatrick is you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different targets yesterday. With Ryan Fitzpatrick, you just don't see the ball spread around that much. And, Tua, and I heard this, I was watching, I was actually listening to The Fighter and the Kid. And, hold on, I'm thinking. It was Mark Sanchez and some guy from Colorado who worked on a Tua documentary for Fox Sports 1. It was a phenomenal action. It was actually a really good episode for a football fan like myself. And the guy talked about Tua, and he said, Tua's not the most physically imposing person. He doesn't have the cannon arm that you expect. He's got a great arm. That's not what he was saying. He's got a great arm. He's got great accuracy, but his ability to think quickly and process his reads and develop is apparently superhuman. Like, that's what they were saying in the draft process. That's what they were saying prior to it. And the way he's able to manipulate safeties, the way he's able to visualize everything that happens on a football field the way he does, is that genius level. It's very Drew Brees-esque is what you're seeing from Tua Tagovailoa. That is exactly what they're saying. Okay, so I agree with that. I thought he looked like Drew Brees in college, just the confidence, the ability to deliver the ball to all parts of the field so accurately. It's definitely something that is to behold, and we're going to keep monitoring as Tua continues to move on in his career. But I thought the Dolphins, their defense came up big, made a stop. And Zane Gonzalez, I had been on the other side of a Zane Gonzalez missed game winner. As a Browns fan, I've been on that, the sadness. And the Cardinals, from 49 yards out in Arizona, in that thin atmosphere, pop flies are home runs in Arizona. All right? I can imagine. I know the ball's oblong. I know it is oblong, excuse me. But that came up short from 49. That's an NFL kicker. You expect your high school kicker to come up short from 49, your college kicker. But you're a professional kicker. I don't think I want to see you coming up short until 60, And that was short. It was right there, but it was short. It was good from 48. But yeah, I was really impressed with Tua. I was really impressed with Justin Herbert yesterday. And once again, it's the conversation of young quarterbacks. They're just better now. I think they come into the league more prepared for success. I think they don't come into the league and get hit with these just insane levels of just knowledge that they haven't learned yet. I think quarterbacks are more prepared from ever. They're taking these crash courses with guys like Quincy Avery, guys like George Whitfield, and learning and understanding pro-style concepts. And I think that is really helped in the draft process. The full holistic training. You got guys coming in, teaching them before they even get there what some of these things they might see, teaching them what it's like to be a pro. 10, 15 years ago, guys like Alex Smith came in, and the reason Alex Smith was successful was because he worked hard. I'm not knocking Brady Quinn for not working hard, but he worked hard in the wrong ways. He got super buff. What was he thinking? But the young quarterback age now is exciting. I think you see the 5 elder statesmen still doing their thing. Phillip Rivers played well yesterday, despite all the antics around it. Yes, he fell apart, but that's Phillip Rivers. Tom Brady, well, we saw it. He went up against another one in Drew Brees. Ben Roethlisberger ended up staying undefeated, and yeah, it was a good day yesterday for the oldies. Some of them was really bad. All right, so next on the list we've got the NBA starting again. All right, so I'm a big NBA guy. I love LeBron James. I think I've gone on record and said that quite a few times. But the NBA draft's coming up. The NBA starting. So, who was the one player who was upset about this? I think you could easily guess it, because I wouldn't talk about the NBA right now if it wasn't for a certain player, making his suggestion with a facepalm emoji on his Instagram story. It was LeBron James, all right. And this is the stuff that hurts LeBron. I sighed there because it was unnecessary. I know he was probably drinking some rosé, some $100,000 wine, because that's what LeBron does. But you can't facepalm that, man. You're a basketball player. Basketball players play, and I know more than an athlete, all that stuff, human being. But the other people in the league are going to have to tie up their shoes. They're not going to get it to say anything along those lines. You had power in the NBA PA. You probably could have been the president of it, LeBron. But, the other players voted for a December 22nd start. Why is that? It's because I think it's better to get back on track for the regular season, okay? And you're only playing 71 games. Oh my God, you're going to rest 5 of them? Okay, LeBron, that's good. That's fine. Take the miles off. But there's some things we have to get into about this. All right, so it's starting the 22nd. So that is actually just over a month away, a month and 2 weeks. So training camp's going to start getting ramped up. You're going to have the rookies coming in almost immediately and getting into training camp. And then it's going to be weird. It really is. And for the first time since February 6th, teams will be allowed to make trades just before the November 20th draft. Official dates have not been released, but the moratorium is expected to be lifted on November 16th, according to The Athletic, and player movement will accelerate with free agency, which could start as soon as November 19th. So we're about to get into a very interesting part of the offseason. And I think that is going to be a fun part of the offseason. And all that free agency stuff that usually gets drawn out over an entire summer. I know in basketball it's a little different than baseball. We talked about that last week. It's going to get drawn out a little bit. It's usually drawn out. It's going to be shortened. Okay. I'm excited for that. You're going to get NBA free agency coming at you like it's nobody's business. And everyone's going to be like, oh my God, how'd they come up with these deals? Like people aren't talking right now, okay? You'd be very simple-minded to think that. How will the 72-game schedule work? The finals end July 22nd. Camp starts December 1st. Opening night's December 22nd. Regular season ends May 16th. The finals end July 22nd at the latest. So the league proposed 3 to 4 preseason games. I think that's good. I think everything about this is good. The NBA will also cut travel by 25% and limit cross-country flights early in the season. So rather than playing this long cross-country schedule early, you're going to wait till the middle of the season when the players are more ramped up, ready for it, and their body can take it more, because you really got them locked in the bubble. First off, I don't think people are going to want to be away from their families for that long again. But really, I think this is something that the NBA needs to do. I think limit travel due to the coronavirus, number one. And number two, limit stadium capacity. Ron DeSantis, I don't want you filling up the United Airways Arena. I do not want to see there being fans there that aren't family until at least this vaccine's rolled out and it starts clearing up a little bit, okay? That's what I need to hear that. The California, you need to be cool about practice, all right? You need to let these guys who are going to be around each other no matter what into the same room and let them practice, okay? Let's not shut the entire league down with a positive test either. This is a very regionalized sport. Give yourself some time for corrections. I think you'll have it. But I think 14 back-to-backs is a lot. That's in place. But I think both ends of the back-to-backs take place in the tourney. Okay, so apparently there might be another play-in tournament. I thought that was fun. All-Star Weekend is going to be interesting because of all the fanfare. I think All-Star Weekend with no fans would be pretty fun, actually. I think you just get a very big inside look on all the players. Don't shoot the game documentary, but documentary format everything else, and have a nice little movie after. I'd watch it. I know a lot of people would. The final figures for the salary cap, let's see how much money they lose. The salary cap would fall from $109 million to $90 million, according to ESPN. To avoid punishing this year's free agent class and pushing it all but a few teams into the luxury tax, the league and the union will agree to artificially inflate that number and hold a higher than normal percentage of players' salaries in escrow. I'm not a business guy. I don't know what any of that means. Fans don't come. Who's going to coach Thunder? Nobody. They are a dead franchise. Go back to Seattle. And that is the NBA. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be the NBA. This has been said 100 times. It doesn't start till Christmas anyways. All right, so I think you're going to have, once again, you're going to get your own time back. You're going to be able to ignite it. And the one last thing I have about the ratings is I think people are bored of the NBA. I do. I don't think they're bored of the social justice stuff like they lie to you about being bored about. I think they're just bored at the fact that it's LeBron James. There's nobody else again. The Lakers, they were the favorite from the start, even though a lot of people doubted them. But we didn't get Lakers Clippers. We didn't get Lakers Celtics. We got Lakers Heat. We got Lakers. We didn't get Lakers. We didn't get LeBron Giannis. We didn't. It's okay. Basketball's still enjoyable to watch, okay? And that's sort of how I felt about it. All right, so I think it's going to be fun when it starts the 22nd. I think 71 games is actually the magic number for the NBA. The 82 games is too long. I agree with that. And I think you get enough in 71 games that you can say a lot about teams. So that is the NBA discussion I had for this show today. All right, so we've got one more NFL storyline before I hit the whip around, and then I'll talk about the last playoff discussion I had yesterday on Buck Off, but on a more national scale. So, my bold prediction for the home stretch. All right, you guys ready for this? I don't know if you guys are future bettors. I don't know if you guys just like to know predictions. I don't know if you guys know if I'm Christradamus or not. I don't care for that matter. What I saw yesterday from the Dallas Cowboys is enough for me. All right, I think they're going to make the playoffs. Now, I look at the NFC least, as Skip Bayless is calling it, and I almost typed that in. The NFC East standings here. All right, so the Eagles, 3-4-1. Sloppy team. The Washington football team, 2-6. The Cowboys, 2-7. So, why do I think the Cowboys are going to make the playoffs? All right, Zeke, if he gets a little healthy, you got a legit running back, all right? Tony Pollard's good. I liked what I saw. Garrett Gilbert yesterday slung the rock around. Boom. And now you've got Leighton Vander Esch, Sean Lee, and Jalen Smith healthy. Okay, boom. Randy Gregory and Alden Smith are starting to play football like they have always done, at a high level. Now, if they can avoid the marijuana, avoid the PCP, and avoid getting caught in a drug bust again, I think they'll be fine. I think their secondary is still weak, but I think they're starting to get good enough at enough positions on the defensive side of the ball. They're starting to get healthy that they can make a run here. And I think 7-9 wins the division. You're going to have to be better than Philadelphia. I think goes 6-9-1. So that 7-9 gets you in over them. So you're going to have to win 5 of your last 9. But when I take a look at the Cowboys' schedule, after that, they've got the Vikings, a very winnable football game. They've got Washington, a very winnable football game. Then they got the Ravens, that's probably a loss. They got the Bengals, flip a coin there. 49ers, that's probably a win. And then Eagles, Giants, and that's for the playoffs. All right, so I think of their last 8 games, 5 of them are winnable. That gets them to 7 wins, all right? And I think 7 wins in this division gets you to the playoffs. Can they win 5 of these games? I don't know if Mike McCarthy has it in, but that's my bold prediction of the day. Brought to you by Bold Predictions. All right, so that was my bold prediction for the rest of the year. Cowboys making the playoffs in the NFC least. Okay, so before I close out the show with my last playoff outlook, I got to pull up the AP Top 25, and we're going to really get into it. My favorite player from the weekend in college football was Muhammad Ibrahim. That guy is unbelievable. And if you have a chance to watch Minnesota football, he's going to be the only player you really come away impressed with. Rashad Bateman's pretty good too, but I said what I said. So the current AP poll is sort of what we have to base things on until the College Football Playoff Committee comes out with their initial rankings in the next couple weeks. So right now it's Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Clemson, Texas A&M, Florida. All right, so last week Cincinnati was ranked 6th. They won very handily and moved down. All right, Florida beat Georgia. And once again, the group of 5 bias has come into play. The BCS Buster bias. It's been there for a long period of time. But I'm going to go through these 8 teams, and I'm going to talk about them because I think they all deserve their opportunity to prove themselves, okay? And if any of these teams lose, outside of probably Ohio State, they're probably done for the year, okay? Maybe not Alabama either. I think Alabama and Ohio State would have chances at redemption if they lost. But the rest of them have one opportunity to lose. So we're just going to start at number 1. Alabama football. What is their strength? It is Mac Jones. It is Najee Harris. It was Jalen Waddle. It's Devontae Smith. It's their offensive line with Alex Leatherwood, who returned, and their other 4 guys. And their defense of front 7. That is their strength. Their DBs have proven that they can make plays, but realistically, I am okay with Alabama being the number 1 team. They have proven time and time again this year that they deserve a shot. All right, Notre Dame at number 2. All right, so what does Notre Dame bring to the table? A very efficient running game. You guys saw it last night or 2 nights ago when Notre Dame played Clemson. They have a good quarterback, and I'm never, ever going to say great about Ian Book, but he played great last night, or 2 nights ago. God dang it. Kyron Williams is a very elite running back. They have solid receivers, Javon McKinley, Avery Davis, Ben Skowronek, who's been there forever. But as a whole, their team's good. On the defensive side of the ball, I think their defensive line is dominant at times. And I think they really do make a difference in the game, especially on the interior. And they were giving DJ Uiagalelei and Travis Etienne quite a bit of problems. But I think Notre Dame is a fraud. I do. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to lose to Clemson in their rematch when Trevor Lawrence is back. I think Skalski's going to get healthy. I think they are going to come to the next game much more prepared. A young quarterback going into South Bend on the road. played great, but there was times, and you look at his stat line, yes, he didn't throw interceptions, but there was times in those 15 incompletions where he could have delivered a ball that was much better than the one he threw, and I think that's the thing when people read box scores you don't see. I think Notre Dame's a good football team. I just don't think they're a championship-level contender, and that is my takeaway on number 3, Notre Dame. Number 4, you've got Clemson. I still came away with that game thinking, Clemson's missing one of their best players on defense in Skalski. They're missing Trevor Lawrence, who is much better on third down than DJ Uiagalelei. I think Clemson's better. I do. I think you're able to load the box more, slow down Travis Etienne. They really played. Notre Dame had a good game plan there because they made DJ Uiagalelei beat them. And I have said that a lot of times, and if I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. But you look further into the details of the game, and it's really, they attacked the two areas where they didn't have the experience. They made the young quarterback beat them, and they made the backup linebacker who was filling in for Skalski beat them and make decisions, and they very much went after the linebacking group, and that really worked well for Notre Dame. But now Trevor Lawrence is back. So who are you going to attack? Good question. Offensively, no one. I think their receivers are still weak, so you're going to need Notre Dame secondary to be good in the rematch if you're going to beat them. But I think Clemson is a lock to remake the playoffs. So that means the ACC has a real opportunity to get 2 teams in. All right, Texas A&M, they've climbed up. I don't think they're good at all. And I haven't watched them play since they lost to Florida because guess what? I didn't think Florida was very good. So pulling up Texas A&M's football schedule, their last games, those are the important ones, all right? So they hammered South Carolina. Ooh, I'm so proud of you, Texas A&M. You beat on the Gamecocks. Ooh. You beat Arkansas by 11, a much improved Arkansas. Ooh, you beat Mississippi State by 14. The fact you only scored 28 makes me a little sick to my stomach. All right, you lost to Alabama. That's your one loss, but you didn't just lose to Alabama. You got hammered by Alabama. You can't come back from that. I think they're going to lose. There's 4 games left. I think A&M will blow one of those 4 games. So I don't think the rest of the country has to worry about them. All right, so now we get into Florida. All right, so A&M beat Florida. Florida's been recovering since then, and I think Florida really actually had a big prove-it win. I think Florida at this moment is better than Texas A&M. I know it was a shootout last time. It was a very close game, but Florida, good football team. I think offensively, Dan Mullen has those boys playing extremely well. It's really looking like the old ball coach Steve Spurrier's Florida teams that were just very offensively efficient and good enough on defense to win a championship. I really like what I'm seeing from Florida these last couple of weeks, but they have to run into the torrential buzzsaw that is Alabama and the downpour that is going to rain on their parade come season's end. And if they win, guess what? Opens up the door for 2 SEC teams. Okay, so that's a playoff scenario. All right, now we get into the 2 teams I really hope make it as a 4 seed. How's it going to work? I don't know. These 2 teams are going to have to win out, number 1. Cincinnati's in a much better position to do that. BYU's in a much better position to win out, but Cincinnati's in a much better position to win out. So Cincinnati will play a conference championship. All right, when you pull up their football schedule, pull it up with me, all right? And if you're not, I'll just read out the game. So they have East Carolina. That should be an easy win. Then they have to go to Orlando and play UCF. So that's a big marquee opportunity. You're going to play one of the number 1 offenses in the country, led by Dylan Gabriel, and you're going to have an opportunity to beat them on the road. That's a big win. All right, then you're going to play Temple. Should be an easy win. Temple is known to upset teams. They get one a year. Could it be Cincinnati? I don't think so. I think the Cincinnati team's too good to fall into that trap. And then lastly, they play Tulsa. And then the conference championship game. So Tulsa was rescheduled. They got pushed back to the end of their schedule to their open date. Cincinnati plays Tulsa on the road in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's an opportunity to play another really good group of 5 team. a team that's ranked pretty high in S&P Plus rankings, and that is an opportunity to really continue to close out the year strong. So, yes, you have the opportunities to make some noise if you're Cincinnati. But if you're BYU, you've got a little bit more of a challenging road in front of you, and not because of anything you did wrong. Their original schedule, which we talked about before, is very good. But they play North Alabama University, I'm pretty sure an FCS program, and San Diego State, a very good Mountain West power. But is it going to be enough to wow the committee? They are going to have to win those games both by 40-plus apiece. So I'm excited to see what they do. I'm excited to see it. I don't think Texas A&M wins out. I don't think Florida wins out. I think Florida might lose 2 games by the time the season ends because that's just sort of what they do. And then when you look at Clemson, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Alabama, I think you could lock 3 of those 4 teams in to the Final Four. Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, and or Notre Dame. So I think there's legitimate opportunity for the group of 5 if Cincinnati handles their business, if BYU handles their business, to get that 4 seed. And I'm going to go into a little tangent here about BYU. The normal weaknesses for these BCS busters, these group of 5 programs, are number 1, their offensive line size. You look at UCF a few years ago, they mitigated that with speed on offense and tempo, all right? Similar to what Oregon did before they were able to get elite offensive line recruits. The next part of that, their defensive front 7. You know, usually they're a little undersized, grittier guys. They have big dudes who developed into good football players at BYU. That's the truth. Same at Cincinnati, all right? Cincinnati's got an elite front 7. The only undersized person I believe on Cincinnati is a defensive tackle, their 3 technique, and that is because that's intentional, and he is just a very crafty player. You look at BYU, you look at Cincinnati, the 2 weaknesses are usually offensive line and the ability to control the game. Those are 2 strengths Cincinnati and BYU have mastered. All right, and their defense not only plays fast, they play aggressive and physical. They're not going to get pushed around by the bigger team. You know, Boise State's usually the Mountain West team that pushes people around, and BYU absolutely mollywopped them. So I think there's a real opportunity for the group of 5 to get into the playoff this year. That's the scenario I wanted to talk about the most. There are opportunities for BYU and Cincinnati to get there. I like both teams a lot. I like BYU a little bit more because I think Zach Wilson's just a little bit better. And when the College Football Playoff Committee unveils their first ranking, we're really going to get to learn about where they value these group of 5 teams. Because I think you can't sit here honestly and tell me that Florida is definitively better than BYU and Cincinnati. You can't. You can't sit here and definitively tell me that Texas A&M, who's lost a game by 28 points, is better than Cincinnati or BYU. I'm just saying that. You guys can believe me, you guys cannot believe me, but that's just my opinion of the sports that matter, the opinion that matters, right? All right, that's it for today. I'm closing out the show. Hope you guys enjoyed spending some time with me on this wonderful Monday morning. Hopefully you guys have a great week, and I will see you all on Thursday. Adios, muchachos.